You think you found this message, but the truth is, it found you. There are no accidents in the fabric of reality. Every word you are hearing right now has been traveling toward you since the first moment you chose to keep going, even when life felt unbearable. And now you've arrived. You see, life's greatest tests don't come with warning labels. They don't arrive as neatly packaged exams with questions and answers. They arrive disguised as silence, as nights where you couldn't sleep because the weight of uncertainty pressed against your chest, as moments when you wondered if anyone could hear the quiet desperation of your heart. The test was never written on paper. It was written in your persistence, in the way you kept walking when the path disappeared, in the way you chose faith even when logic demanded proof. What if I told you that the fact you're here, listening to this, is evidence enough? That you didn't stumble upon this video. Something within you called it in, because deep down, you already passed the threshold. You already crossed the invisible line where most people give up. Think about it. Two people can face the same storm. One collapses under its weight. The other keeps walking, drenched, exhausted, but refusing to stop. The difference isn't luck. It's resonance. It's the vibration of a spirit that whispers, "I am not finished yet." And that was the test. Quantum physics teaches us that nothing is random. The double-slit experiment showed us the act of observation changes reality. So, here you are, observing these words, collapsing possibilities into form. You think you chose to click this, but on a deeper level, it was already chosen for you, because your consciousness has been asking for a mirror. And this is it. You don't need confirmation from the world outside you. The very fact that you are here, that you are resonating with these words, proves it. You've already passed. The exam was not about achieving more, proving more, or becoming more. It was about realizing you already are enough. So let this land in you. This message is not the beginning of your journey. It's the echo of a truth your soul has been whispering all along. That whisper, the one you tried to ignore, the one buried beneath the noise of doubt, was the quiet voice of victory. And now it's no longer a whisper. It's a declaration. You didn't stumble here. You arrived because you crossed the threshold, and from this moment forward, your story isn't about surviving the test. It's about living beyond it. You have been taught to see your struggles as evidence that life is against you, that every closed door is rejection, that every moment of suffering is some kind of punishment, a verdict that you are not worthy. But what if this was the greatest misunderstanding of your existence? What if the universe was never testing you to break you, but calibrating you to become? Because here's the truth. Reality is not a random sequence of events. It is a curriculum, an invisible syllabus designed with precision, where every challenge, every heartbreak, every delay is part of your training. The universe is not a cruel examiner. It is a hidden teacher. Think of the double-slit experiment. Light behaves as a wave of infinite possibilities until it is observed. Only then does it collapse into form. In the same way, your life is an ocean of probabilities, and your consciousness is the observer, collapsing outcomes into experience. But here's the paradox. Until your inner frequency resonates with the reality you desire, that outcome cannot stabilize. It flickers, slips away, disappears like light unobserved. So life begins to teach, not through words, but through mirrors. You say you want abundance, but the universe sends you scarcity to reveal your unconscious fear of lack. You say you want love, but the universe brings you heartbreak to reflect the ways you abandon yourself. You say you want peace, but the universe offers chaos until you learn the stillness that no storm can touch. This is the hidden curriculum. A lesson plan written not in books, but in the friction of your everyday life. Imagine two people facing the same event, a job loss, a breakup, a rejection. One spirals into despair, convinced life has ended. The other breathes, pauses, and asks, "What is this teaching me?" One collapses into the story of defeat. The other calibrates into a higher version of themselves. Same event, two observers, two realities, and maybe that's the most important revelation. The obstacle was never against you. It was always for you. Every so-called delay was simply alignment in disguise. The universe was preparing you not for failure, but for resonance. Because the you who desires a life of freedom cannot be the same you who still clings to fear. The you who longs for love cannot remain the you who runs from vulnerability. And the you who dreams of abundance cannot stay the you who believes in lack. So reality offers the test, but not as punishment, as initiation. When you look back, you'll see it. The moments you thought were breaking you were the very moments that built you. The heartbreak carved space for real love. The rejection cleared the path for something greater. The delay slowed you down only so you would arrive at the exact moment destiny was ready. Here is the shift. Life has never been against you. It has always been for you. And the day you recognize this, every obstacle turns into instruction. Every delay becomes direction. Every wound becomes wisdom. This is the hidden curriculum of the universe. And you were never failing. It was always preparing you for alignment. You didn't notice it. You couldn't. Because the final test was never something the outside world could measure. It wasn't the job offer, the phone call, the breakthrough. It wasn't a sign written in the sky. The real test was invisible, buried in the unseen territory of your inner world. And the moment you passed was the moment you chose to keep walking, even when the road ahead was still covered in fog. Here's what no one tells you. Life does not reward certainty with evidence. It rewards evidence with certainty. The universe waits for you to choose before it shows you what you chose. Think about the double-slit experiment. Light remains infinite, uncollapsed, until the observer steps in. Reality itself hovers in possibility until something within you makes a choice. Not with your words, not with your wishful thinking, but with your being. That's why the final test was never about enduring more suffering. It was about resonance, about embodying trust when the world gave you no reason to trust, about holding the frequency of faith when the evidence was still absent. Maybe you remember a time like this. A moment when everything looked like it was falling apart, finances drying up, relationships fracturing, doors closing one by one. Logic told you to quit, fear told you it was over. And still, something inside you whispered, "Keep going." That whisper was the moment, the unseen collapse of the wave. The instant your inner observer chose a reality where you had already won, even when nothing outside had changed. Two people can stand in the same storm. One says, "I'll believe it when I see it." The other says, "I'll see it because I believe it." One waits for proof, the other becomes the proof. And the storm doesn't decide who passes the test. Consciousness does. This is the secret. The moment the test ended was not when the silence broke, but when you broke through the silence. The universe wasn't asking if you could survive another delay. It was asking if you could embody certainty without one, and the second you did, everything shifted. Not always instantly, not always dramatically, but beneath the surface of form, the probabilities began to collapse into the outcome already waiting for you. The unseen started bending toward the seen. Here is the paradox. The test was never about what you could get. It was about who you could become. The job, the relationship, the opportunity, they were never the reward. The reward was the identity shift. the recognition that you are not waiting on life to prove your worthiness. You are the one who declares it before the evidence appears. And so the moment you passed was not marked on a calendar. It wasn't an announcement, it was a shift, quiet, subtle, but irreversible. The test ended when you stopped needing proof and started being the proof. You've been conditioned to believe life is an endless exam, that every setback is a grade, every delay a mark against you, every unanswered prayer a sign that you have failed. And so you live in constant evaluation, measuring, comparing, waiting for proof that you are enough. But here's the paradox. The test ended the moment you chose faith over fear. The victory was sealed the moment you aligned your being with what you desired. And yet, most people never see it. Not because they lost, but because their mind convinces them they are still being judged. Think about it. The subconscious is a powerful recorder. Every wound, every disappointment, every unmet expectation becomes etched into its walls. So even when the external reality begins to shift, the subconscious clings to old evidence. It whispers, "Not yet, not enough, not safe." This is why most people spend their lives chasing signs, praying for proof, demanding that life show them what has already been decided. The ego wants evidence. The ego demands visible confirmation. But consciousness doesn't work that way. The double-slit experiment doesn't wait for proof before collapsing a wave. It collapses because of observation. The choice comes first. The evidence comes after. Imagine two people applying for the same opportunity. Both have worked hard. Both are qualified. But one walks in with the belief, "I'll be chosen only if they see my worth." The other walks in with the energy, "I already carry the frequency of being chosen." Who radiates certainty? Who aligns with the outcome? Who has already collapsed the wave into form? And here's the twist. It was never about the examiner in the room. The real examiner was never outside. It was, and always will be, the mirror of your own consciousness. The tragedy is that many keep retaking an exam that no longer exists. They keep studying for a test they already passed. They wake up each morning rehearsing lack, doubting themselves, waiting for a sign, not realizing the certificate was in their hands the moment they chose trust. Bob Proctor once said, "You don't get what you want, you get what you are." And that's the secret most miss. Manifestation is not a transaction, it's an identity shift. You already became the person who could hold the reality. That's why the test ended. But the ego resists simplicity. It thrives on striving, on chasing, on keeping you stuck in an endless loop of not yet. It convinces you that peace will come when the bank account is full, when the relationship arrives, when the dream manifests. And so you delay joy. You postpone worthiness. You live as though the universe is still grading you, when in truth, the exam paper was shredded the day you stepped into alignment. Here is the awakening. You don't have to wait for life to crown you. You already carry the crown. You don't have to beg the mirror for reflection. The mirror has no choice but to reflect what you have already become. So pause, breathe, look closer. The victory you've been chasing is not in the future. It is here, now, written in the frequency you embody. The tragedy is never that you failed. The tragedy is living as though you're still being tested, long after you've already won. At first, you thought life was happening to you. Events came like waves, sometimes lifting you, sometimes drowning you. You reacted, adjusted, endured. You thought the goal was to survive the tide. But what if the truth is far more radical? What if you were not the subject of the experiment, but the observer who gives the experiment meaning? Here is where science and spirit converge. The double-slit experiment revealed a mystery that still unsettles physics. Light behaves as both a wave and a particle until it is observed. The moment consciousness enters the equation, the wave collapses into a single outcome. Possibility becomes reality because someone was watching. You are that observer. And once you realize this, you stopped being just a test taker. You became the creator. The observer effect is not just a quirk of physics, it is the blueprint of your existence. Your attention is not passive, it is participatory. It shapes probability fields, bending reality into coherence. Every thought, every focus, every emotional resonance is a signal, collapsing one universe of possibilities into the form you call your life. Think of it this way. Two people walk into the same room. One scans for danger, distrust, proof of rejection. The other scans for connection, harmony, opportunity. They stand in the same space, but they live in different worlds. Because reality does not just exist. It reflects the gaze of the observer. And here is the revelation. The moment you became conscious of your gaze, you stepped into your power as creator. You realized your awareness was not just passing through reality, it was painting it. Joe Dispenza often says, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And energy, measured in frequency, is the raw material of manifestation. When you observe life through the lens of fear, you collapse probabilities aligned with fear. When you observe through love, you collapse outcomes that resonate with love. It was never about controlling the external, it was about choosing the frequency of your inner gaze. You have already felt this in your own life. Remember the times you shifted your focus and everything shifted with it? The day you stopped obsessing over lack and suddenly noticed opportunities that were always there. The moment you chose gratitude and life seemed to mirror gratitude back. The instant you let go of chasing and the thing you chased found its way to you. These were not coincidences, they were confirmations. Proof that your observation is creative. The shift is subtle but seismic. You stop asking, what will happen to me? And start declaring, what will I create through me? Because you are no longer the student waiting for results. You are the observer collapsing the field. You are no longer the test taker trapped in a classroom. You are the architect writing the questions and the answers at once. Here is the awakening. The power was never in the test. It was always in the gaze, and the day you realized that, the game changed forever. You were no longer reacting to reality, you were creating it. You imagined. The end of the test would be dramatic, a celebration, trumpets in the sky. Proof so undeniable that every wound, every tear, every sleepless night would finally make sense. But when it came, it didn't look like that at all. It came as silence. No announcement, no thunder, just a strange, weightless stillness, and at first, you mistook it for emptiness. After so long in battle mode, after so many years of proving, striving, fighting for your place, the quiet almost felt like loss, as if something was missing, as if something had gone wrong. But here's the truth, nothing was wrong. The war was simply over. Think of a soldier who has lived years on the front lines, adrenaline surging, danger at every turn. The day the conflict ends, the silence feels foreign, even threatening. Not because the battle continues, but because the nervous system has been trained to survive noise, not peace. The same happens in you. After surviving storms, the calm feels unnatural. After striving so long for validation, the absence of judgment feels like emptiness. After years of clutching for proof, the silence of certainty feels disorienting, but silence is not emptiness, it is arrival. The observer effect teaches us that reality collapses when observation holds steady. You already passed. You already collapsed the wave. And once it stabilizes, there is no need for noise, for friction, for signs. The silence is not absence. It is evidence. Two people can stand in this moment. One panics, rushing to create new problems just to feel alive again. The other breathes, recognizing that peace is not punishment, but proof. Same silence, two interpretations, two realities. You are learning to choose the second. Joe Dispenza often says, when you've truly shifted your identity, you no longer chase. You simply are. That is what the silence after victory is. It's the pause between who you were and who you have become. So let yourself adjust. Let yourself breathe. Don't rush to fill the quiet with noise. Don't scramble to prove what is already complete. Because the silence is not a void. It is the sound of alignment, and when you finally realize that, you stop fearing the stillness. You stop mistaking peace for emptiness. You recognize it for what it truly is, the echo of a war already won. There comes a moment when you stop waiting. You stop begging for signs, stop bargaining with the universe, stop asking, when will it happen? Because something deeper shifts. You realize you are no longer the one who is chasing. You are the one who already knows. This is embodiment. It's not pretending. It's not forcing. It's not positive thinking layered on top of doubt. It is walking, breathing, and moving in the frequency of certainty. Neuroscience confirms this. The subconscious does not distinguish between reality and vividly imagined experience. When you act as though it is done, your brain begins rewiring itself to match that identity. Neural pathways fire in new patterns, hormones shift. The body starts to believe what the mind has chosen, and soon, life follows. But most people live in the opposite pattern. They wait. They hesitate. They live as though they are still on trial. I'll be confident when I see results. I'll feel worthy when I'm chosen. I'll walk in abundance when the money comes. And so they collapse, the wave into more waiting, more delay, more lack. Two people can stand at the edge of a dream. One waits for evidence. The other walks as if it's already real. Which one bends probability? Which one teaches the mirror of reality what to reflect? Joe Dispenza often reminds us, your personality creates your personal reality. When your identity remains tied to waiting, your world reflects waiting. But when your identity shifts to knowing, your world mirrors knowing. The exam ends because there is nothing left to prove. Walking as the one who knows is not arrogance, it is resonance. It's not forcing reality, it's tuning yourself to the frequency where that reality already exists. Just like a radio doesn't chase the signal, it aligns with the frequency until the music plays. Imagine this in practice. You want love. You can wait in desperation, scrolling, doubting, hoping, or you can embody love now. Treat yourself as the beloved. Move through the world as one already chosen, and suddenly your field radiates attraction. Or imagine abundance. You can hoard, fear, grasp, or you can carry yourself as one who already lives in overflow. You give, you trust, you expand, and the mirror of life reflects it back. This is the difference between desire and embodiment. Desire says, I hope one day it will come. Embodiment says, it is already here, and I am walking in it now. The observer effect reveals that it is not reality that convinces you, it is you that convinces reality. Consciousness collapses possibility into form. And when your gaze is no longer questioning, no longer pleading, no longer testing, but certain, then certainty becomes flesh. Here is the shift. You are no longer a seeker. You are no longer waiting for signs. You are no longer living as though you are being examined. You are walking as the one who knows, and life has no choice but to know it with you. Every test, every delay, every heartbreak was never about punishing you. It was about dissolving the version of you that could not yet carry the life you were asking for. Because the truth is, you don't manifest what you want. You manifest who you are. And the you who begged for proof, who doubted your worth, who lived in lack, could never hold the reality you now stand inside of. So the universe began collapsing the old self, just like the double-slit experiment shows us. An infinite wave of possibilities exists until one is observed, until one collapses into form. In the same way, the old you existed only as long as you kept observing them. As long as you rehearsed their story, their wounds, their fears, they lived. But the moment you shifted your gaze, the moment you stopped feeding that frequency, the old self began to dissolve. It felt like loss. Of course it did. Because identity clings. The subconscious attaches to what is familiar, even if it is painful. That's why letting go feels like dying. Because in a sense, it is. You can see this play out in ordinary life. Two people lose a relationship. One clings to their old identity, the abandoned, the unworthy, the victim of rejection. They replay it, rehearse it, feed it, and so it survives. The other chooses differently. They let the old self collapse. They grieve, yes, but then they open. They allow the death of who they once were to make space for the birth of someone new, someone capable of love, capable of wholeness, capable of alignment. Same event, two observers, two realities, and now you're beginning to understand. Every test was never about proving your strength. It was about dismantling the false structures that kept you small. Every delay was not denial, it was demolition. The tearing down of illusions so the truth could finally be built. Amit Goswami once said, "Consciousness is the ground of all being." Your old identity was built on unconsciousness, reacting, doubting, fearing. But once awareness entered, once you became the observer instead of the puppet, the foundation cracked. That identity could no longer stand. And that collapse is freedom. Because what remains is the self who already knows. The self who no longer waits for permission, no longer begs for signs, no longer rehearses lack. The self who walks in certainty. The self who radiates the frequency of already victorious. Bob Proctor taught, if you want to change your life, you must change your paradigm. And paradigms collapse only when old identities dissolve. The death of who you were is not the end, it is the initiation. So let yourself release them. The version of you still waiting to be chosen, the version of you who believed peace had to be earned, the version of you who thought reality was punishment. They have served their role. They walked you to the edge of transformation, but they cannot walk with you further. Here is the awakening. The collapse of the old self is not destruction. It is creation. The test was never against you. It was for you. And now, with the old identity gone, nothing stands between you and the life you were always meant to live. You thought you were searching. You thought you were climbing, striving, passing through tests like endless gates on the way to a finish line somewhere far ahead. But here's the revelation. The finish line was never ahead. It was always here. You didn't come here to prove yourself. You came here to remember yourself. The double-slit experiment showed us something almost unbearable in its simplicity. The observer doesn't discover reality. The observer creates it. Light does not travel as particles waiting to be found. It travels as waves of possibility, collapsing only when awareness enters the scene. In the same way, your life was never a test waiting for you to pass. It was a canvas, collapsing in real time beneath the gaze of your own consciousness. Every test was preparation, yes, but not preparation for some far-off day. Preparation for this moment, this now, the arrival that was already encoded in you from the beginning. Think about it. How many times did you imagine that peace would come someday? After the breakthrough, after the relationship, after the money. But now you see the trick. Someday is a mirage. Arrival is not a destination, it is an identity. Two people can live the same day. One moves through it as though something is missing, rehearsing the old story of lack, waiting for arrival to come. The other breathes it in as completion, walking in gratitude, living as though the prayer has already been answered. Same day, same world. But one is still waiting for life to begin, while the other is already here. Which one are you? Joe Dispenza teaches that when you live from the memory of your past, you keep recreating the same future. But when you live from the memory of your future, the embodied knowing that it already exists, you collapse probability into presence. You stop asking when and start declaring now. And this is the cinematic reveal. You are no longer the student, the test taker, the seeker. You are the one who passed. You are the one who knows. You are the one who has arrived. The universe never stood above you with a red pen grading your worth. The examiner was always the mirror of your own consciousness, and the moment you shifted your gaze, you passed. The war ended, the test dissolved, and the silence that followed was not emptiness. It was arrival. So what remains? To live it, to breathe it, to expand it, to stop postponing joy, postponing peace, postponing the truth of who you are. Because the reality you once begged for is already here. The you that once prayed for alignment is already walking in it. Here is the revelation. You already passed, and now the only task is the simplest, yet the most profound. Stop searching. Start living. The screen fades. The echo lingers. You are not waiting. You have arrived.